Well, so far, we have only seen the trailer, but there's already outrage from some corners over a new MTV documentary that the network says takes a look at white people and their struggles of living with white privilege. Here's a peek.
So we're doing a film for MTV on what it means to be young and white.
Okay.
Okay.
If you say the wrong thing, then suddenly you are a racist.
I'm trying to be careful here.
I don't want to offend people. I feel like you guys are attacking me now.
If I bring up any sort of race issue with my parents, they immediately assume that I'm demonizing them.
Give me a hug.
How might your life be different if you weren't white? When you say white, what does that mean to you?
We've never had to internalize what white people have done in America, but here, you can't escape that.
Feels like I'm being discriminated against. You kind of get this feeling that things belong to you.
I'm getting uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
Hey, this is great. Let's get all uncomfortable together.
Joining me now, National Review editor Rich Lowry and progressive radio talk show host Leslie Marshall. Rich, let me start with you. How might your life be different if you weren't white?
Well, no one has seen this program yet, Megyn, but I think we're pretty safe in assuming that it will be as stupid and exploitative as you'd expect from a network that gave us Jersey Shore and Teen Mom 2. You know,
don't be misled. They genuinely care about American society and its improvement.
I know. I'm so cynical and hard-bitten. Look, the notion of white privilege, it's very trendy, especially on college campuses, and it's based really on an odious lie about our society. There's no doubt that we have a hideous history of racism in this country, but that doesn't determine anyone's future right now. That is still overwhelmingly based on family privilege, on education privilege, on hard work privilege, and those are things that are open to everyone in this country.
Leslie, the guy, the producer of it, the guy behind the project is Jose Antonio Vargas, who's an illegal immigrant, a Pulitzer Prize-winning illegal immigrant who's highlighting comments like the ones you just heard, like the white woman saying, "This is what it's like to be white. You get this feeling that things belong to you." Who died and made her the spokesperson for white people?
I don't think she certainly doesn't speak for me, and I am white, as you noticed. And I think this is different than that 16 and pregnant, and I agree with you, Rich, on the stupidity of those kinds of shows. You know, Megyn, one of my favorite classes in college was called the Sociology of Prejudice, and our teacher broke us down into groups where we had different races, cultures, religions, and gender, and we sat and had a discussion that was very uncomfortable at the beginning of class. People walked out. It really reminded me of this in this trailer. By the end of the class, and I have friendships with many people from that today, I learned so much more about other religions and other colors and how I as a white woman are perceived and as a woman. And I thought it was great because it was a conversation that needed to be had then. It's still a conversation we need to have. And I think among this group of people,
but here's my question for you.
Here's
my question for you, Rich. Are we adult enough in this society to have that conversation? And do we trust that conversation in the hands of this particular filmmaker who has come out and talked about we can't talk about racism until we face white privilege in this country, and about how a new America is being created right now, and talking about the growing, presence of non-white people as a good thing and so on. And that's fine. But is this the shepherd we want?
No. Plus, we're having this conversation all the time. It's one of the main topics in our country. And I think we're overly obsessed with race, especially the left, which appears to, when they look at people, they don't see individuals, they see skin color. And that's really pernicious. And the idea of white privilege, you look at some of the whitest counties in America. They are in Appalachia. And if race were determinative of success in this country, those would be the best counties to live in this entire country. And of course, they're some of the poorest counties in this country. You look at the top colleges in America, they almost all discriminate in some form or other against Asian applicants because they're such successful students. So is there Asian privilege in this country as well?
But let me ask you about this, Leslie, because we're seeing this more and more. And I'll tell you, just here in New York City, where you've got these fancy private schools. schools, right, that people send their kids to. You cannot walk through the halls of one of these schools without seeing these posters about got privilege, check it. And then your kids get an education on how bad America is because of what the white people did to the American Indians, and they devote entire years of school teaching the kids about that fact. And so, I mean, so the people think that it is white shaming as opposed to just getting a dialogue started on race issues.
I understand that because I think a lot of people perceive that if you're proud of being Caucasian, that it is racist or that you're a neo-Nazi or a skinhead. I think it's essential for people to have accurate history about our history, and that does include color. And with this group of people, especially on this trailer that we've seen, they're going to be in the prime of their lives when 2054 rolls around and whites are no longer the majority. So I think it's fair to say, what would life be like if you weren't white? And I think it's also fair to say to people who are people of color, what do you feel it would be? And Rich, although the Appalachian is a great example, when you go to some of these really hoity-toity schools, you don't see a lot of color in the hallways, and I think that's going to change.
That's not true in New York City. That is not true here.
Well, you know,
but I can tell you, listen, I can tell you that. How might your life be different if you were not white?
These kids
I would be darker. I gotta go.
All right.
See you.
Have a good night.
I would hopefully not have to lather on the SPF 80 the entire time and stay underneath the umbrella. Womp womp.